This is the Release and Realization podcast, where we explore emotional freedom and practical manifestation based on the teachings of Lester Levinson and Neville Goddard to help you unlock your inner power and create the life you want. Welcome. In today's episode, David and Anna share 6 remarkably effective yet simple letting go practices you can apply in everyday life.
Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're carrying, a heavy load of that mental noise, that constant inner critic, the relentless worry about the future, or just the feeling that you're stuck in a loop.
The same old emotional reactions day in and day out.
Exactly. Then today, we are going straight to the source. We're setting aside the usual stress reduction techniques.
That's right. Today, we're embarking on a really deep dive into the foundational teachings of Lester Levinson. We're focusing specifically on a set of 6 powerful exercises.
And these aren't designed just to manage emotions.
No, not at all. They're designed to achieve a profound, lasting release from the things that really bind us.
The source material we've gathered for this, it provides a remarkably simple yet powerful roadmap for this kind of internal work. And our mission today is to really extract the core mechanisms.
We want to understand how the system actually works.
Yes, how it works as a genuine shortcut. How it helps us recognize and maybe permanently dissolve those deep, unexamined belief systems that dictate our experience.
The ones that operate without us ever really knowing they exist.
This feels like the difference between treating the symptom and, removing the root cause entirely.
It is. And the central insight here, the whole operational theory of the practice, it comes from Levinson's description of the mind itself.
Okay.
He said that the mind functions primarily as a storage system.
A storage system?
Yeah, think of it like a huge digital archive. It's filled with every judgment, every past emotional reaction, and every unexamined belief we've ever held.
And these patterns, just because they are stored and we don't look at them, they operate automatically.
Exactly. They are the software running in the background of your life.
So the goal isn't to override the software. It's to bring the code into the foreground.
That's a great way to put it.
To move those automated patterns from the unconscious, where they control us, to the conscious,
where they lose their power.
When we shine the light of awareness on them, they cease to function as controlling forces.
They begin to dissolve on their own.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the foundation, because it seems like the most difficult step is simply seeing what we're not looking at. How does that first exercise teach us to observe our own mental storage system?
Right. So we begin with what Levinson called belief examination, or you can just think of it as self-reflection. This is our exercise 1.
And it's a profound shift in how we view our own mental architecture.
It really is. We usually assume our mind is this, active, brilliant processor. But Levinson suggested it's more like an attic. An attic filled with inherited, dusty furniture, old patterns, old fears, old expectations.
And the crucial point, which the sources really highlight, is that these beliefs operate automatically, not because they are inherently true, but just because they have never been consciously observed or questioned.
They're running our lives on autopilot simply due to neglect.
That's the key mechanism we need to grasp then, that awareness precedes release.
Yeah, absolutely. Levinson was so definitive about this. He said, what you cannot see, you cannot release. What you clearly see begins to dissolve on its own.
So this first exercise is just a reconnaissance mission.
That's it. The goal is just to surface the content of that mental attic. No cleaning, no organizing, just looking.
And the practical application, as it's laid out in the material, is simple. Almost deceptively simple.
It is.
We're asked to reflect on these specific, sometimes uncomfortable statements. Things like, I worry about my health, or I feel uncertain about my life.
Or even, I reject myself.
And then just rate the intensity of the feeling that comes up on a scale of 1 to 10.
And the guidance here is so critical because this is often where people trip up. This is not a logical exercise. It's not analytical.
You're not supposed to analyze why the worry is there.
No, or try to rationalize your rating or judge it. You are simply observing the visceral, the energetic intensity of the feeling that surfaces when you read the statement.
So it's sensory data, not logical proof.
Exactly. You're just taking a measurement of the feeling.
And the sources really emphasize that finding contradictory statements to be equally true is, it's actually the perfect outcome.
Yeah.
For example, you might rate, I love myself as an 8, and still rate, I reject myself as an 8. And the logical mind just screams at that.
It does. It immediately wants to resolve that contradiction. And that's precisely why the logical mind has to take a step back here.
That paradox is the gold standard of awareness in this practice.
It is, because it reveals the conflicting programs that are running simultaneously in the background. Our logical mind tries to smooth over these contradictions in daily life, but they're still there.
And they're consuming vast amounts of energy.
Huge amounts. So the practice is simple noticing. No judgment, no evaluation. If you feel resistance, like, oh, I shouldn't worry about this.
You just observe the resistance itself.
You observe the resistance. You might even rate the intensity of that feeling of resistance. This is what prepares the ground for the actual release technique.
Okay, so we've successfully diagnosed the pattern. We've seen the conflicting programs running. Now we move from just recognizing the symptom like, say, the worry about body weight to the actual treatment.
Mm-hmm.
This is where that three-step release structure comes in.
Yes. And the beauty of this whole system is that it simplifies the infinite variety of human emotions into one very simple process.
Every single release follows 3 steps.
Every single one. 1, you acknowledge the feeling, you just see it. 2, you allow it to be present, you don't fight it, you don't resist it. And 3, you let go of the want behind it.
And that want is always, always, always traceable back to one of the 3 universal desires.
Approval, control, or safety.
The famous ACS.
Absolutely. According to Levinson, these 3 wants are the driving forces behind all forms of human suffering. When we feel bad, it's because an underlying desire for approval, control, or safety is being threatened or frustrated or is just unfulfilled.
So the process bypasses the surface story.
Completely.
It doesn't care about the story we tell ourselves about why we're upset.
Right. It goes straight to what we call the energetic root.
I want to spend some time on that phrase, energetic root, because that feels like the core mechanism the listener needs to really understand. When we talk about releasing the want, what are we actually doing to the mind's architecture?
Okay, so think of it this way. A feeling, let's say it's anger, isn't just a chemical reaction in your brain. In this model, it's energy that's bound up with a specific desire.
Okay.
So if I'm angry that my colleague didn't follow my instructions, the feeling of anger is being powered by my desire for control. It's the desire for my colleague to do what I wanted them to do.
Right. The outcome didn't match my expectation.
Exactly. The moment I release that desire for control, the need for them to behave differently, the energy that was fueling the anger is no longer bound. It's freed up.
And the anger just dissipates.
It dissipates, not because I suppressed it or pushed it down, but because I removed the mechanism that was powering it.
Yeah.
The feeling transforms from a binding force into just a passing observed sensation.
That completely reframes the idea of struggle. The struggle isn't with the feeling itself.
No.
It's with our clinging to the want.
It's the clinging. That's the whole thing.
Let's dive deep into those wants with some modern concrete examples.
Yeah.
Let's go beyond just the basics that people might have heard before.
Great idea. Let's start with safety. This isn't just about, physical security, though it obviously includes that.
Right.
Safety is the desire for security, certainty, and predictability. It's the need to know that things are going to be okay.
For a lot of our high-achieving listeners, safety probably manifests as career anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
That worry that tomorrow's success isn't guaranteed, or that intense need to always have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D.
Exactly. Or worrying about the stock market, or worrying about the longevity of your job, or even just worrying about a difficult conversation you have to have next week. These are all projections of the desire for safety.
So you're letting go of the need for the future to be known and guaranteed.
Yes. When you let go of the desire for safety, what you're actually doing is inviting present moment trust, even into the uncertainty. You're becoming okay with not knowing.
Okay, now, control. This one feels like it's maybe the most insidious in modern professional life, especially for people who are used to being effective problem solvers.
Control is the desire to orchestrate outcomes, to make things happen the way you think they should. And very often, it's the desire to control your own internal experience.
Like try not to feel anxious.
Exactly. Think of the modern professional who struggles with delegation.
Right.
They say, I can't delegate because no one will do it as well as me. That is a pure, powerful desire for control, and it leads directly to burnout.
So the release involves allowing things to unfold, maybe imperfectly.
Yes, and releasing the need to manage every single detail. When you worry about your health, that's often a desire for control. You're trying to fight the inevitable imperfections and changes of the body. You're releasing the desire to control biological outcomes.
I've heard it argued that control is really the root of almost everything. I mean, even approval is just an attempt to control how other people perceive you.
That's a really valid perspective within this philosophy. Control is certainly the most aggressive of the wants, but approval has its own distinct signature, its own flavor.
Okay.
Approval is the desire to be liked, to be validated, praised, and accepted. It's what drives perfectionism and performance anxiety.
So for our audience, approval isn't just about needing a compliment.
No.
It manifests as imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. Imposter syndrome is the constant fear that you will be found out, that others will disapprove of you or withdraw their validation.
And that feeling we mentioned from exercise 1, I reject myself.
That points directly to a deep, deep need for approval. So we release the desire for external validation and the need to meet any internal or external standard. When you release the need for approval, you allow yourself to be exactly as you are right now, flaws and all. It's incredibly freeing.
Let's circle back to what might be the toughest one mentioned in the sources, examining positive feelings, like, I love myself, or I feel happy. Why on earth would we release the desire for a positive state? Isn't that the whole point of this system?
It is the ultimate paradox, isn't it? And it's where this practice really separates itself from, say, simple positive thinking. Levinson taught that any feeling, even happiness or self-love, that we cling to, that we desperately want to keep, it becomes a fragile prison.
So if my feeling of I love myself is conditional,
Yes.
conditional on me having a great day or hitting my fitness goals or getting praise, then it's actually brittle.
Precisely. It's an attachment. When we cling to the state of happiness, we generate the corresponding fear of losing it. The wanting to hold on to the good feeling is what makes it temporary.
Wow.
By releasing the need to cling to that state, the desire for control over your emotional tone, you allow your emotional tone to fluctuate naturally.
And what's left?
What remains when the clinging is gone is an unconditional, effortless well-being. And that is far deeper and more stable than any conditional happiness.
So the mechanism of section 1 is using awareness, that first exercise, to diagnose which of the 3 energetic roots, A, C, or S, is powering the feeling before we ever even attempt the release.
Yes, it gives you incredible clarity.
It simplifies the entire universe of problems.
Every issue is just control, approval, or safety, or some combination of them.
This brings us beautifully to exercise 2, clarifying your intention. So having cleared out some of that old energetic residue, now we need direction.
Right.
But you've made it very clear this is not conventional goal setting.
It's fundamentally different. Levinson highlighted that one of the deepest causes of human suffering is what he called inner confusion.
Inner confusion.
Yeah, the mind, when it's left to its own devices, wants 20 contradictory things at once. I want more money, but I want more free time. I want to be relaxed, but I want to achieve more.
And that internal conflict is just, it's exhausting.
Completely exhausting. Clarifying your intention is about simplifying that inner direction.
So it's about defining the inner state we wish to embody rather than the external object we want to achieve.
Yeah, right.
Not, I want a promotion, but I want to live with ease and inner freedom.
Precisely. The focus is on the being from which the actions will then arise. When your intention is clear, let's say it's inner freedom, the mind settles down because it has one clear compass point.
And the insight here is realizing that what we truly want is the state of being that we believe the external goal will bring us.
Yes. We don't really want the new house. We want the safety and the control we believe the house represents.
So the intention becomes an inner compass, a guiding state. But the guidance says we have to look for an honest intention, not some spiritual one we think we should have. And we have to notice if it arises from a sense of lack. That sounds like a trap.
It is a subtle trap. It's a very important one. If your intention is, I want to get rid of this persistent anxiety, what's that rooted in? It's rooted in the fear of anxiety. It's coming from a place of lack and resistance. Now, if the intention is, I want to know inner freedom, that's more of a pull toward ease.
So the first one requires more careful release work.
Right, because it's being driven by aversion. You're trying to run away from something.
And this leads us to the most complex layer of exercise 2, which is releasing the wants behind the intentions. This is where my brain starts to hurt. If my goal is positive, like I want to be calmer, why must I release the desire for calm? I'm going to challenge that. If I stop wanting calm, won't I just accept being stressed out all the time?
That's a fair challenge, and it really reveals the genius of the mechanism. The moment you intensely want calm, that very wanting itself is an act of effort.
Okay.
It's an act of fear, and it's an act of control. You are actively resisting your current non-calm state. The wanting reinforces the very stress you are trying to escape. This is the paradox of hidden resistance.
So the mechanism is this. The effort to attain the desired state is what maintains the underlying undesirable state.
Precisely. Let's take your example. I want to be calmer. The process is you first acknowledge the restlessness. You see it. You allow it to be present.
Okay.
Then you release the desire for calm. And underneath that, you release the desire for safety, which is what's fueling the fear of the restlessness.
And you ask yourself a question.
Yes. You ask, what would happen if I didn't need to be calm right now?
Wow.
By releasing the need to control the inner state, you remove the energy that was powering the restlessness, and then calmness can spontaneously, effortlessly emerge. You stop fighting.
That's such a powerful distinction.
Yeah.
Moving from striving for calm to just allowing the absence of stress. Let's try another one. I want to accept myself more. This feels like a healthy intention.
It does. On the surface, yes.
Yeah.
But if you analyze the wanting, where does it come from? It stems from a place of dissatisfaction.
The feeling that right now I'm unacceptable.
Exactly. Therefore, it reflects a deep desire for approval, even if it's just from yourself. The release involves allowing that dissatisfaction to be present.
And then releasing the desire for approval entirely.
Right. You stop the effort of self-improvement that is rooted in self-rejection. And the transformation is profound. You stop trying to accept yourself and you simply allow yourself to be as you are.
Or what if the intention is purely defensive, like I want to get rid of my fears?
That is fighting fear with more fear. You are actively resisting the presence of fear. The moment you fight something, you empower it.
Right.
So the release here is to allow the fear to be absolutely present, release the desire for the fear to disappear, and then release the underlying desire for safety. You stop the effort to get rid of the feeling. The struggle against the fear is usually way more debilitating than the fear itself.
What about intentions that suggest some kind of external change? Like, I want to feel less burnt out by work, or I want a more fulfilling life.
Good ones. I want to feel less burnt out often means I want control over my schedule and I want approval for my output, but I want it without all this effort. So the release is twofold. You release the need to control the outcome of the work, and you release the attachment to external expectations or praise. For I want a more fulfilling life, you release the conditional seeking.
The idea that fulfillment is external or somewhere in the future.
Yes. You allow the present moment to feel boring or incomplete, and you release the desire for fulfillment itself. The natural state of wholeness emerges when you stop chasing the idea of more.
So, to summarize the core mechanism of exercise 2, we're using intention to expose the fear and the lack, not to acquire the outcome.
Right.
And when the wanting is released, the intention moves from this desperate striving to a quiet, natural pull toward abundance.
It transitions from effort to allowing. You keep the direction, but you drop the attachment to when or how it happens. And this frees up vast amounts of energy that were previously tied up in forcing and resisting.
Okay, so we've established the map. We know what to look for: approval, control, safety, and we know how to refine our direction with intention. The real challenge now is moving this from a thoughtful, sit-down exercise into actual, messy, daily life. And this is exercise 4, releasing a continuous inner attitude.
This is the crucial pivot point. This is where the technique transitions into a state of being.
You can't just wait until a crisis hits.
No, or until your dedicated meditation time to practice. The mind's habitual mode is, well, it's thinking, analyzing, controlling, and defending. Constant releasing is the daily antidote to that noise.
And it moves your awareness out of living in your head.
And anchors you firmly in the present moment where life is actually happening.
The source material really stresses that this attitude only requires willingness, not time. It happens in the midst of life. It sounds like what we're doing is replacing the subconscious habit of clinging with a new subconscious habit of letting go.
That's a perfect way to describe it. And the outcome is the development of genuine inner stability, what Levinson called the natural state of imperturbability.
Imperturbability doesn't mean nothing ever bothers you, right?
Not at all. It means that when things happen externally, traffic, a rude email, a tight deadline, they don't pull you out of your center. They don't fundamentally disturb your inner peace.
That center becomes stabilized through these continuous small acts of letting go.
Yes. And remember, even just noticing that you forgot to release for an hour is a moment of awareness. And so that's part of the practice too. There's no failure.
Let's analyze some of the most common everyday applications that plague our audience.
Yeah.
Let's start with overthinking, this constant review, the planning, the worrying about future scenarios.
Overthinking is a relentless manifestation of the desire for control. It's based on this deep-seated but totally erroneous belief that if I just analyze the problem enough,
I'll find the perfect solution and I'll control the outcome.
right. So we release the racing thoughts by releasing the need to think everything through. We ask ourselves, what happens if I simply allow myself to be right now without needing a mental solution?
You're releasing the belief that thinking is the path to safety.
You are. What about the common escape behaviors? The constant phone checking, the urge to binge watch a series, or stress eating. These are so deeply ingrained they feel almost automatic.
They are powerful manifestations of avoidance.
We're trying to control our inner state by generating stimulation or comfort, or seeking safety in just numbness.
So what's the practice in that moment?
When you feel that urge to escape, you just pause. You acknowledge the feeling you're trying to escape from. Maybe it's boredom or emptiness or restlessness. Then you release the feeling and you release the resistance to that feeling. Could I allow the boredom to be present? Could I allow the restlessness to just exist for a moment? When you stop trying to be somewhere else, the energy for the escape behavior just disappears.
That internal urgency is a massive one, especially in a productivity-driven world. That feeling of, I should be doing something more, or I need to prove my worth.
Oh, that's textbook urgency and inner pressure. And it's driven by external and internalized expectations, which is classic approval seeking.
You're trying to control how you are perceived.
Or maintain the feeling of worthiness. So you release the sense of urgency, you release the expectations, and you release the desire to perform. The release question has to be applied with ruthless honesty here.
Which is?
What happens if I have nothing to prove right now? That releases the attachment to external validation and frees up all the energy that was tied to self-criticism.
And what about the sudden, sharp emotional reaction? The immediate flare of irritation at your partner or another driver?
When that quick flare of irritation or impatience appears, we have to intercept it before the mental story starts.
Before you start listing all the reasons why the other driver is terrible.
Exactly. We release the feeling without analyzing it. These immediate reactions almost always contain a desire to be right, or a desire for control over the immediate environment. By releasing the feeling and the root, one say, the desire for control over the flow of traffic, we allow the feeling to pass on its own.
So you're reducing the reactivity that defines that inner noise.
And with continuous practice, those gaps between the trigger and your reaction become longer and longer until presence becomes your default state.
Now, even with this continuous attitude, the source addresses a major stumbling block, the feeling of stuckness. Exercise 5 is designed specifically to recognize and release this resistance, and this feels like the point where many people would just quit the practice.
This is such a critical area to expand on because feeling stuck is almost universal in any kind of personal development work, and Levinson's insight here is revolutionary.
What is it?
Stuckness itself is a form of resistance, and therefore it is entirely releasable. It's not an external wall, it is an internal tension.
Wait a minute, though. If I feel genuinely exhausted, or if a certain problem just keeps recurring, isn't that a real obstacle I have to push through? Isn't labeling it resistance just a form of self-deception to avoid taking real action?
That's the critical distinction. It's not about avoiding action at all. It's about removing the effort that's tied up in the internal resistance to the current moment.
Okay.
The misconception is believing that stuckness is a real external obstacle that requires some Herculean force to overcome. In reality, it's an inner state based on hidden expectations, a need for control over the process, or a belief that I should be further along than this.
The thought, this is taking too long.
Or I should have passed this stage by now. That is the obstacle, not the original feeling. When you resist being stuck, you actively reinforce the stuckness. You create a feedback loop of stuckness.
So the practice isn't to find a solution to the stuckness.
No.
But to release our relationship to the feeling of being stuck. It's allowing the stuckness to be present without adding all that internal commentary.
Precisely. It's allowing, not doing. Think of the mind trying to control the releasing process. It's like a car trying to control its own braking system while it's in motion. It just adds friction.
So let's look at how we apply the release structure to this specifically. For example, the thought, I'm not getting anywhere.
That is rooted in control and expectation. So you release the feeling that you need to make visible progress, and you release the desire for control over that progress. You ask, what happens if I don't need to move forward right now?
And the moment you release that pressure,
the energy that was bound up in that frustrated expectation is freed, and often movement just naturally appears.
what if the internal critique is, I'm doing something wrong. That one hits hard.
That's classic self-rejection, and it's fueled by the desire for approval. You release the self-directed criticism and the desire to do the practice right. You release the need for approval of your process. By removing that pressure, you transform the practice from a performance into an organic process.
And the ultimate meta thought, I'm tired of releasing, or even, I can't let go.
That is the mind trying to control the entire releasing process. It's the effort to make the process effortless, which is a paradox. When you think, I can't let go, you release that very feeling and you release the desire to be able to let go.
You stop trying to force the unforcing.
Yes. And this frees the practice from the entire burden of expectation.
It sounds incredibly self-correcting. By releasing the stuckness, we dissolve the struggle, which allows that natural flow to appear and stabilize the imperturbability we're aiming for.
Right.
So stuckness isn't a failure, it's just another layer of the desire for control that needs observation.
It's an opportunity. The moment you stop fighting the perceived inertia, the inertia ceases to hold power over you. It's the moment you transition from feeling like a victim of the process to being the conscious operator of your own awareness.
We've arrived at exercise 6, which feels crucial for long-term commitment and, maintaining momentum. It's recognizing and integrating the effects of letting go. If the true changes are subtle, how do we prevent the analytical mind from just dismissing them and saying, this isn't working?
This is so essential because the skeptical mind expects these rapid, visible, dramatic shifts. It wants a lightning bolt of clarity.
Right.
But true, lasting change is often quiet and gradual and cumulative. So many people stop releasing because their mind compares their subtle shift to some fictional, dramatic result they think they should be having.
The source material reminds us that every time you let go, you become fundamentally lighter and happier, even if the mind doesn't immediately grasp the magnitude of that.
Exactly. So we have to teach ourselves what success actually looks like in this internal domain. We're reprogramming the mind's definition of progress from external achievement to internal state.
In this exercise, releases doubt and builds profound trust in the natural efficacy of the process.
Which is the final step towards stabilizing imperturbability. We are training ourselves to notice the quiet evidence of inner freedom.
What are those specific, subtle signs that we should be looking for?
You can start with the physiological and the energetic. A slight sense of relief. Reduced inner tension. Maybe you just notice your shoulders are slightly softer or your jaw isn't clenched anymore.
A clearer focus.
A quieter mind. It doesn't need to be a massive, dramatic feeling of bliss. Even the smallest shift matters because it proves the mechanism works.
Let's detail those concrete observations that signal success. The first one is feeling a little lighter.
Lighter signals that the energetic burden of resistance has been lifted. Remember, holding on to those 3 wants, approval, control, safety, it requires effort. It's like carrying an invisible backpack full of resentment and expectation.
And when you release a want, that energy is freed.
It is. The observation is key here. Where is this lightness felt? Is it in your chest, in your breath, or is it just a shift in your emotional tone? Acknowledge it, and that acknowledgement reinforces the trust in the process.
Okay, next. I feel calmer than before.
This indicates that the inner struggle has softened. The need for control over your internal landscape has decreased, and you're resting closer to your natural state.
And you should pay attention to the quality of that calm.
Yes. Is it forced, or is it spacious and gentle? If it's the latter, it's arising naturally from the released tension. It shows you're less dependent on micromanaging your inner life.
The sources highlight that perhaps the most important metric is, it doesn't bother me as much as it used to.
This is the proof of lasting change. This is the big one. The external situation, that irritating colleague, that financial worry, it hasn't disappeared.
But your relationship to it has profoundly loosened.
The emotional hook has been removed. You are no longer attached to the requirement that the situation must change for you to be okay. This is the clearest sign that the letting go was successful and that the energy has been freed.
If we're aiming for true imperturbability, the related sign must be, I don't feel the urge to control it as much.
That signifies a weakening of the desire for control, which means trust is increasing. We are moving from a default stance of scarcity, I must micromanage everything to survive, to one of abundance and trust.
This is the moment where imperturbability stops being an aspiration.
And starts being the background noise of your life. And paradoxically, when the desire for control weakens, Your capacity to act effectively actually increases because you are no longer acting out of fear.
And finally, when urgency dissolves, it doesn't feel so urgent anymore.
Urgency is the result of time pressure combined with a deep-seated fear of the future. It's an act of control over the timeline.
So when urgency dissolves, the mind relaxes.
And the present moment comes clearly to the foreground. This is deep inner freedom. We have released the need for things to happen on our timeline, allowing life to unfold at its natural pace.
But what if the mind still whispers, I don't feel anything or nothing happened? How do we handle that persistent doubt?
That thought is just the final layer of resistance, and it's simply a trigger for another release. When your mind says, I don't feel anything, it means there are expectations or impatience or control present.
So we examine that doubt itself.
Yes. Could I let go of the expectation of feeling something dramatic? Could I let go of the impatience that demands instant results? Simply noticing and releasing those secondary layers of resistance often leads to the subtle realization that something has shifted, but the mind was just too busy analyzing to notice the quiet relief.
Ultimately, this entire practice is teaching the listener to stop measuring progress with the analytical mind and to trust the mechanism of release itself. The consistent recognition that one is lighter, calmer, and freer leads to the realization that letting go naturally results in a stable state of well-being that no longer requires effort.
The effort was in the initial wanting and in the resistance. When both are released, the natural state just emerges on its own.
That state of imperturbability is our baseline.
It's our baseline. Everything else is just the accumulation of unexamined wants that we've taken on, mistaking them for ourselves.
What an incredible deep dive into the practical architecture of this philosophy. To summarize the key takeaways that we extracted from the source material, we start by bringing awareness to our unexamined beliefs, just using the mind as a mirror and rating the intensity of those feelings.
We then simplify the entire universe of suffering by recognizing that every negative feeling is fundamentally rooted in one of three core energetic wants: approval, control, or safety. This is really the key insight that allows us to bypass the symptom and go directly to the cause.
Then we clarified intention not as an external objective, but as an inner state, recognizing and releasing the hidden lack or resistance that often accompanies even positive desires, transforming all that striving into allowing.
And crucially, we integrate this releasing into daily life with exercise 4 to continuously dissolve inner noise and reactivity. We even tackled the meta problem of resistance itself with exercise 5, which leads us towards stabilizing that state of imperturbability.
For the listener, this provides a profoundly robust toolkit. It's a true shortcut to inner stability. Because when you release the need to control the information or the environment around you, the overwhelming power of that external world dissolves.
You gain resilience by giving up the need for control.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the long-term benefit of this practice, it really transcends immediate emotional relief. We're not just managing reactions.
No, we are systematically dismantling the very framework of emotional attachment itself. And this allows us to interact with the world with increased capacity, clarity, and genuine choice.
So here is our final provocative thought for you to explore, one that builds on this foundation of imperturbability. If true inner freedom comes from releasing the want behind every feeling, even the positive ones, like the need for constant externalized success or the need to feel great about ourselves, what would it genuinely look like to live a life where your intentions are absolutely clear, yet there's zero clinging to the outcome? What new capacity for dynamic, effective action emerges when you operate without the need for control or approval driving your every single move?
We leave you with that, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, please consider subscribing to the channel. For more in-depth and advanced content, you're welcome to join us on Patreon. We'll be back next week with the continuation of this topic.